Hi, I'm Susie Barber. Do you ever walk right past certain produce items because you're not exactly sure how to cut them? Well, I want to give you a few quick and easy tips to alleviate those fears that you may have. Today we're going to start with a fresh pineapple. Before you begin cutting anything, make sure you have a stable cutting board. To stabilize your cutting board, it's really easy to grab a paper towel and dampen it slightly, put it underneath your cutting board, and that's going to make it so that your cutting board will not slip. For a pineapple, I really prefer to use a blade that is very narrow. This blade is also flexible, and it does allow the knife to follow the contours of the pineapple. First, we're going to take off the top of the pineapple. Next, take the bottom part off. Cut just a little bit more to make sure I get that core off. Now it's simply a matter of removing the outer edge of your pineapple. With a serrated blade, the action is much like using a saw. See how I'm using my finger to hold the next slice as it comes down. This to me is a good way to remove the eyes of the pineapple without much waste. At this point, you have a couple of options. You could take the entire core out of the pineapple, or you could do it this way. This particular method of cutting pineapple is sometimes called the grower's method. And I suppose it's called that because this is the way that pineapple growers tend to cut up their pineapple. So what I did was I just took that quarter section of core right out of the pineapple. At this point, you can make pineapple spears like that, or you could go one step further and make pineapple chunks. And this would be great to go on kebabs for the grill. You could put them in a salad. You could put it on a fruit tray. And that is a quick way to process fresh pineapple. Of course, before you cut any produce, you want to make sure it's clean. I've rinsed this off. What we have is a mango. Mangoes are usually in season in the summertime and sometimes late into the fall. I often like to choose mangoes that have some red on them and see that they yield a little bit with gentle pressure. And smell it. If you smell a nice, sweet, fragrant smell, then there's a good chance that your mango is ripe and ready to use. Mangoes have a flat seed that's shaped something like your two palms put together. So what I want to do is lay my mango up so that the seed would be standing up on the cutting board. I'm going to use my chef's knife for this. And what you need to do is just start your cut just on the other side of the center. Angle your knife in just a little bit so that you feel your knife cutting right beside that seed as you go down. And I can see that I did a good job with this because I can see the edge of the seed. Now you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Just feel for the edge of that seed within and slightly angle your knife in. At this point, I usually like to use a smaller knife. And what I will do now is cut a grid into the mango flesh and then turn it a half turn and continue cutting. Then you pop the peeling of the mango this way, and it makes it really easy to cut these cubes of mango away from the skin. So this would look nice in a salad, or if you were making a mango salsa. And the good thing about this is if you want large chunks of mango, cut a large grid. And if you would like a small diced mango, then you can cut a smaller grid. If the mango had been just a little riper, it probably would have held together better in a dice, but this is fine for most applications. The next thing I want to show you how to cut is an avocado. And it is an absolute shame that people forgo making their own guacamole because they're not sure how to cut an avocado. It's easy, and I'm going to show you how. The perfect avocado that works for guacamole is the avocado that yields to gentle pressure. This one feels just wonderful. The variety that works best is this one. This is called the Haas avocado, H-A-A-S, and it has a very rough texture, and when it ripens it gets very dark. So take your knife, cut into the avocado, and you'll notice that I am not cutting all the way through the avocado because there's a pit inside which keeps you from being able to cut through it. I have cut all the way around it. Now what I'm going to do is simply turn it and open it, and inside is the pit. At this point you want to take your sharp knife and you want to cut right into that pit. And now if you turn your knife, out comes the pit and it's stuck to the knife. Take another knife and just use it to get the pit off the knife. Don't try to do that with your hand because it's very easily, you can slip and hurt yourself. At this point, take a bowl and a spoon and spoon that avocado flesh right out of the shell. Next, I want to show you the butternut squash. Butternut squash is known as a winter squash, and it's called a winter squash simply because it overwinters well, which means you can buy a butternut squash in September and leave it in your pantry or on your counter or your shelf probably until January or February, and it'll still be fine. It has a very hard and thick skin, and it just holds up well to time. It's also a little bit daunting to process it, but don't let that hinder you. I like to start by peeling my butternut squash with my favorite peeler, the serrated peeler. And you can see that I'm exerting a little bit of force, a little bit of pressure in peeling this butternut squash. Now we need to go around the top. And I actually have the squash laying on the cutting board for this part. Now what we're going to do is take our big chef's knife and cut this in half. And you want to cut it right before it starts to flare out. There's seeds in here. The neck of the butternut squash is just solid flesh. But down here on the inside it's hollow and there are seeds there. And this is a hard cut right here. I have seen people take a rubber mallet and hit their knife with a rubber mallet, but this is not that big of a squash and it wasn't that hard to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the stem off. Look at that beautiful color. It's gorgeous. Again, I'm going to use my flat surface here in a second after I cut the bottom off. But let that flat surface work to your advantage. Okay, that's where the seeds are. You can take your spoon and dig those seeds out. At this point, all you need to do is dice it up in chunks. I finally made it to the cauliflower. Cauliflower is super nutritious and very low calorie, high in fibers. There are only 26 calories in an entire head of cauliflower. So to take care of cutting up your cauliflower, you need to get rid of these green leafy parts right here. You're left with a stem. You can take a small knife and go ahead and cut inside there. So with this paring knife, you can just take the core of the cauliflower out. And it's so easy to just break up at that point. And it's totally up to you as to whether you continue breaking it up or you use a knife. But what you want to do is get these tightly bunched florets down into smaller bite-sized pieces. These are the perfect size for roasting. There are other recipes that call for the cauliflower to be sliced, like so. And if I had done it from the whole head, I would end up with large slices of cauliflower.
So friends, if you ever feel like cutting up, don't be afraid.